Academic writing is fundamentally persuasive writing. You are not just writing to inform your reader, you're writing to persuade your reader. And that means that you must make your case to your reader in a way that convinces and persuades them that you are correct about what you're claiming. Now, in my review and evaluation of student work, there are essentially three ways students tend to make their case. One is by logic, through reason and warrants. Two, by marshaling the opinions of experts in an effort to persuade the reader that, since all the experts agree with me, I'm clearly correct. And three, by presenting evidence in support of their claim. Now let me illustrate. Say, for example, your claim is that hummingbirds fly south for the winter. Now that seems pretty safe and certain. But let's make the case for our claim using each of these methods and see which proves most convincing. You might argue logically by offering a reason for your claim. In this case, you must use reasons we call warrants to support your claim that hummingbirds fly south for the winter. Think of warrants as proverbs or folk wisdom, general principles based on experience. Now, warrants can be true or false, valid or invalid, stated or just implied. You typically offer a warrant when your claim is challenged or you anticipate it's being challenged. For example, you could respond with this warrant. Birds migrate because they cannot survive in very cold temperatures. Now, your argument appears solid as long as your warrant holds up. But what if someone protests? Well, penguins don't migrate, they can't even fly. Or, but there is increasing evidence from bird watchers that some hummingbirds are wintering in the north, in places like North Carolina, rather than flying south for the winter. Now, there could be lots of reasons for this: global warming, a year-round food source, migration mechanism, malfunction, and so on. But the point is that warrants appealing to general principles only work so long as there are no exceptions or variables to invalidate your logic and reasoning. Now, all arguments rely on reasons, because statements, but readers of research arguments are more likely to trust a claim when it's not inferred from a principle, a warrant, because no matter how plausible or compelling your general principle may appear, there are too many exceptions, qualifications, and limitations to account for everything. Now, you might argue that hummingbirds fly south for the winter because you surveyed the ornithological literature and found that there was a consensus among bird experts that this was so. The problem here is that you've employed a logical fallacy called appeal to authority, or argumentum ad verecundium in the vernacular of logic. Just because an expert thinks something, or even if all the experts think something, doesn't make it so. Experts can be wrong, often are. I remind you that the experts once formed a consensus around the mistaken notion that the world was flat. Sometimes their errors get enshrined in the language. Take the word atom, for example. It comes from a Greek word that literally means undividable. How quaint. However, I observe that this is frequently the default strategy of students who tend to think of research as a book report on the views of the experts, and who consequently think that if the experts are on their side, and if they can marshal enough support in the academic literature, drop enough footnotes in their paper, their case is proved. But it isn't. I know, this is the method of argumentation you hear everywhere around you, from reporters to politicians to television people selling their products. Well, all the experts agree that. But this is the weakest way to make your case, because experts tend to know what they know, and they don't know what they don't know. Remember the atom. That is, the consensus of the experts can become a kind of groupthink, with each scholar parroting what they learn from other scholars. In my own review of popular New Testament surveys, I have found the same demonstrably false error in multiple textbooks precisely because textbook writers rely on other textbooks for their information that they put in their textbooks. Hear the groupthink there? That is why in every field, true breakthroughs almost always come from outside the discipline. Someone not in the group who, looking at the same data the group is looking at, sees what the group cannot see because of their groupthink. Moreover, real scholars will notice the appeal to authority fallacy every time and point out that you really have no basis for your claim except the company you keep. Well, I may be wrong, but at least I'm in good company. Not a very strong argument. The final and best way to make your case is to argue from reasons that are based on evidence rather than warrants or groupthink. Real research follows the evidence wherever it leads, all the evidence, not just the evidence that agrees with you, and then draws whatever conclusions the evidence demands. I monitored the activity of hummingbirds in my area and discovered that when the temperatures dropped below a certain level, they left. Where they went, I do not yet have enough evidence to say. Now, to be sure, when we make our case with evidence, rather than warrants or academic groupthink, we must do so provisionally. That is, this is what I think in light of the available evidence. When more and better evidence becomes available, I may have to modify my views. But you are always on surer and safer ground to make your case with evidence. Even though it's not as final and categorical as arguing from warrants or as reassuring as citing the experts, it has this in its favor. It tells the truth. And so when making your case, pay attention not just to what you want to say, but how you intend to say it. Trust me, your dissertation supervisor will. Ask yourself, how will I make my case? And how convincing is my argument? That is, will it stand up to scrutiny? When it comes to academic writing, don't make the mistake of living between your ears. Well, in my head, it all makes perfect sense. Construct your argument for the reader, not the writer. You must convince your reader, not yourself, that you have made your case. For more, see Chapter 5, Planning Your Argument in Turabian's A Manual for Writers. Well, I hope that helps. Till next time, take care. God bless.